Welcome back to Beyond Wisdom, where we explore timeless truths for a more peaceful and meaningful life. In the noise and rush of modern life, it's easy to feel pulled in every direction, distracted, overwhelmed, and unsure of what truly matters. But the ancient Greeks believed there was a way to train the mind, just like training the body, to see the world more clearly. Not just through knowledge, but through clarity, a stillness of thought that could lead to wisdom. Today, we explore how they did this and why it still matters. Above the entrance to the Temple of Apollo at Delphi, there were 3 maxims carved in stone. The most famous, know thyself. To the Greeks, especially Socrates, this wasn't just a saying. It was a lifelong discipline. He believed most people lived in confusion because they never examined their own thoughts. Instead, they followed the crowd, chased pleasures, and feared discomfort. But Socrates questioned everything, including himself. To him, wisdom began not with certainty, but with the courage to say, "I don't know." This humility opened the door to true learning. Today, that same principle holds. If we want to see clearly, we have to slow down, reflect, and ask ourselves honest questions. What am I really feeling? Why do I believe this? What am I afraid of? The mind becomes clearer not by collecting answers, but by getting better at asking the right questions. For philosophers like Aristotle and Plato, clear thinking wasn't just academic, it was ethical. They believed that reason, or logos, was what separated humans from animals. To live a good life meant training your mind to follow logic, not impulse. Aristotle developed entire systems of thought, like syllogisms and categories, to help people think better. But he didn't just write them down. He taught them while walking with students through shaded gardens, talking through questions about virtue, friendship, and justice. The goal wasn't cold analysis. It was harmony between thought and action. Today, in a world full of quick opinions and emotional reactions, that discipline is more needed than ever. When we slow down to think, really think, we begin to respond, not just react. The Stoics, especially Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, taught that most of our distress comes not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. They trained themselves to mentally step back from appearances, from praise, from blame, from pain or pleasure, and ask, what is this really? Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, would remind himself daily that fame is nothing more than the clapping of hands, that anger is just a brief fire, that fear is only a thought. This wasn't to suppress emotion, but to see through it, to understand that what happens outside us is not what controls us, it's how we interpret it. That mindset leads to incredible clarity. We can't always change our circumstances, but we can choose how clearly we see them. The Greeks didn't just theorize, they practiced. Plato wrote about the importance of dialectic, or structured dialogue, as a tool for refining thought. Stoics practiced daily journaling, a kind of mental hygiene. They would review the day each evening. What did I do well? Where did I act on impulse? What could I improve? Pythagoreans began and ended their days with reflection and silence. These weren't rituals for show. They were training. Just like athletes warm up and stretch, these thinkers believed the mind must be exercised, nourished, and challenged. Modern science agrees. Consistent reflection actually strengthens neural clarity. So whether it's morning journaling, silent walks, or thoughtful conversations, The practices that clear our mind haven't changed much. They just require consistency. The Greeks didn't separate wisdom from character. In fact, they believed you couldn't see clearly unless you lived rightly. Why? Because vice clouds the mind. Greed makes us blind to sufficiency. Envy distorts how we see others. Anger blocks reason. But virtue, courage, temperance, justice brings clarity. A just person can see a situation from all sides. A temperate person sees their own desires with honesty. A courageous person faces fear without losing sight of what matters. This isn't moralism. It's practical. A clear mind isn't just intelligent. It's disciplined. An ancient Greek philosophy reminded people that character wasn't optional for clarity. It was the foundation. The Greeks saw beauty not just as decoration, but as something that pointed to deeper truth. Architecture, music, even mathematics were expressions of harmony. Pythagoras believed that the universe was structured according to number, that beauty and proportion were not random, but part of the order of existence. When a mind is disordered, it struggles to perceive that harmony. But when a mind is trained, calm, observant, in rhythm, it begins to notice the quiet order beneath chaos. The Greeks surrounded themselves with beauty, not to escape reality, but to align themselves with it. Today, we can do the same. Not by chasing aesthetics, but by appreciating small details, seeking symmetry, and embracing simplicity. These things clear the mental fog. In our modern world, we measure success by how much we do. But the Greeks honored something else, theoria, contemplation. It wasn't laziness or inaction, but a kind of sacred stillness. Aristotle believed that contemplation was the highest human activity because it connected us to truth beyond change. It wasn't about solving every problem. It was about sitting with life's mystery and seeing it fully. Many of the wisest Greeks spent time in nature, staring at the sky, listening to music, reading poetry, walking and thinking, not to escape, but to connect. If we want to see clearly, we must sometimes stop moving. Because clarity doesn't always come from doing more. It often comes from being still. Perhaps the most sobering and clarifying idea in Greek thought was memento mori, the remembrance of death. Socrates said that philosophy was a preparation for dying, not in a morbid way, but as a way to sharpen the mind. When you remember that time is limited, you see what matters more clearly. Small things fall away. Status loses its shine. Ego becomes transparent. What remains is what's essential: truth, virtue, love, and meaning. The Greeks weren't afraid of death. They used it as a teacher. It brought their attention to life. We can do the same. When we keep mortality close, our vision clears. We stop wasting time on petty things. We begin to live fully, deeply, presently. The ancient Greeks didn't have smartphones, deadlines, or social media, but they wrestled with the same human problems we do: distraction, fear, confusion, and desire. And through centuries of reflection, they left behind a legacy of mental training, one that still speaks today: knowing ourselves, thinking clearly, living virtuously, practicing reflection, seeing beauty, contemplating truth, and remembering the end. These weren't just ideas. They were habits of mind, lived truths. And if we make space for them, we may find that clarity isn't far away. It's already within us, waiting to be uncovered. What is one habit from ancient Greek philosophy you'd like to bring into your daily life? Share it with us in the comments. We'd love to hear your reflections. Thanks for watching. If this video brought you value, subscribe to Beyond Wisdom. Until next time, stay calm, stay strong, and stay wise.